Welcome back to Focal Point. We are going to continue our conversation regarding community involvement and the importance of coalition work in our community. And joining me now is Marianne Flunder, who is a long-term Wyandotte County resident and a community activist. And Mrs. Flunder, I'd like to start with your impression of the importance of us working together as a community instead of separately.
I think the partnerships and the coalitions in Wyandotte County could and should work together. Number one being the reason that we need to work closely. Funding is at a source now that we cannot continue to individually get funded, so therefore we form some cooperation and some corporate, some partnerships will be able to sustain the funding.
Okay. What are some things that you're involved in currently in the community that that would reflect that need for us coming together and working?
Okay, I work with the Kansas Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the Area Agency on Aging Board. I'm a silver-haired legislator. I do several activities that keep me involved with the whole Wyandotte County area.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the activities those organizations are participating in?
Yes, we make policy. We also, beside that, we are able to go to Topeka several times a year. We have a person who helps us write the grants, to help us make the bills, to make sure the bills get funded. We have 11 PSAs across the state, and each one of us go together to go and provide one or two issues per year instead of us ever individually going to try to get just for our own agency. So that's a partnership that's been formed about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's worked real well.
How do you decide what issues you want to pursue as a group?
Well, usually it's on education because education is the way out of poverty. And so education has been the number one for the last 5 years, I know. Also, we are doing a lot on workforce development, where it includes a lot of younger people. But since the jobs are changing on a daily basis, it's very, very hard to know what the future jobs are going to bring to not only to the Kansas Community College, but to the United States. So we are working on that. Not where we should be, but we're getting there.
Okay. What could change? What are some things that need to change to enable these groups to be more effective?
We got to get out of the I syndrome, number one.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm trying to save my own agency, and while I'm doing that, I'm sinking, and another one is sinking too. So what we need to do is to come together, cooperative. We got to meet, though. We have a meeting of the minds from all the directors around Wyandotte County. Sit down and have us just a knockdown, drag-out meeting. Then come up with one or two issues. And all of us work on those one or two issues instead of us trying to do it individually.
Okay. You mentioned some initiatives that you have that involve young people and helping them as far as education is concerned and maybe being more prepared for the workplace. Do you currently have young people who are actively involved in your coalition as far as helping to develop the policies and being actively involved in your coalitions?
What we do is the youth groups that are involved separately, we try to pull them together. We have not been as successful as we should have been, but we're going to try it again very soon. Several years ago, we tried to pull all the youth agencies together, and when it came time for the funding, a lot of them split off to try to go seek the funding themselves. But I think they learned a lesson from that, and I think this time they'll be more cooperative.
And other than the funding issues, are there some other barriers to the success of working together?
Probably it's a territorial problem that we have in Wyandotte County. This is mine, and it's been mine all along, and I don't want to share it with you like brothers and sisters are in a home that don't want to share. It's probably the same philosophy.
And has your group or any of the groups that you work with, have you ever considered bringing in someone who is maybe considered an expert in the field of community mobilization to maybe walk groups through that process of the importance of working together?
Well, you know, United Way did that several years ago. and it was some successful. We as a group have not did that, but that's an excellent idea that we maybe need to try that again when we bring the youth agencies back together again.
Right. And actually I would think that, especially as you mentioned earlier with reduction in funding, especially at the federal level, that obviously then trickles down to the local level, that maybe some agencies would be a little more willing to
participate.
Yes. Yes. Any other, tell me about some more of the community initiatives that you've been involved with.
Oh, they're probably too numerous to name. I don't know how much time we have. Probably my third one. Okay. You know, I'm very active with the Kansas Community College.
Right.
The Area Agency on Aging, the Silverhead Legislators, probably the Workforce Development would be fourth. I'm trying to put them in some kind of order. You know, the chamber has worked very diligently the last year and a half with the businesses, and they're mostly small businesses, and have been very successful. But I think it's the almighty dollar that keeps us from wanting to join at the hip. But the large corporations are working more so with us now. So I think that the trend's going to change. We've got 2 new large corporations, and they seem to want to do something beside. They want to give back to the community. So if we can get them involved totally, and they also put some funding in it, because it seems like the money part ends up being the part that is always missing, and that we always need.
Right.
I hope that eventually, if we can get other corporations, then it won't be so much just 1 or 2 trying to do it all, but several trying to pull that together. And then I think that's the way we can go. It's a Woods consultant firm that has offered to do the training, and they also want to work with veterans. They've been able to secure some funding for veterans, so that might be something we can connect with education, jobs, and veterans.
So is that workforce development training? Okay.
It would be workforce development, and also be workforce development has money for veterans that they didn't use. They put it in their regular general fund, so this would be an opportunity for them to pull it back out and use it for the veterans.
Which I would think, and I'm assuming you're kind of heading in the direction of preparing Wyandotte County citizens for the jobs, the numerous jobs that are going to be available at the Legends with the corporations that we have coming there. Have you all worked specifically with companies that are building out there?
We've worked with, we're working right now with Cernage. We're also working right now with the Board of Public Utilities. Those 2. We haven't had as much with the casino yet. I met with them twice, so that's in the process.
In all of that, all of the things that you're doing, because much of what we do is focused on youth in Wyandotte County and preparing them for healthy lifestyles and preparing them to be able to make healthy choices. What are, in your opinion, what are some things that we can do to better include our young people in the things that we're trying to do? Because what I sense is that oftentimes we as adults sit around and we decide what we're going to do for our young people, and that doesn't necessarily always work for them. So what are some things that we can do to help draw them in and help them to be more a part of the process?
I think the youth coalitions do that. Because they have the youth, and they get, at least they get an opportunity to express their wishes, their desires, and their needs. So I think we're on the right track with the coalition being able to be the leader and not an older group.
Let me ask a question. Let's say you've mentioned policy changes and trying to be actively involved in changing policy in Wyandotte County. As a young person, let's say I'm 15 years old, and there's a current policy that I really have an issue with, and I think that something needs to be done about that. How receptive do you think the the adults would be if I, as that young person, decide that I want to become actively involved in that, and I want you all to back me up and help to get the ball rolling? Is there a system in place, I guess, that would walk me through that?
Yes, I think through the youth directors at the different organizations, yes, I think that could be done.
Okay.
But they would have to carry it to their own group first,
right?
Then bring it to the total group second, and then I think that a lot of us, like myself, would be interested in taking that issue to Topeka,
right?
To our legislators. Not only our legislators, because we're not going to get any bill passed just with our few legislators, but be able to have a coalition among the legislators in order to get it fulfilled. We have to definitely work outside the box.
Do you think that the adults would be receptive to actually having young people, teenagers, testify before the state legislators?
Okay. On the grandparent bill, we started out with grandchildren testifying.
How'd that work?
Which I thought real good. We got the bill passed.
Okay.
Took us 2 years. But that's not bad.
Right.
The issue is that in the beginning they wanted the grandparents to adopt the children. We don't want that, because we want, when he or she gets able to come back and pick up their child, we do not want to be 90 years old with no grandkids. So outside of that issue, and we're working on that now to get that changed and removed from there. We also have to work with SRS to be sure that everybody gets their fair share.
Right.
But I think if we eventually can have those youth both be part of the procedure, although they can't vote, they can still see how the learning process, the educational part was very, very good for them the last time, because they got to actually to see how a bill starts out, how it goes to that committee, how the committee has to go and get that bill prepared.
Right.
Those people have to write the bill up. They have to go back after they write it up. Then they go through the testimonies. Then it goes to the floor. They actually got to see how a bill is made.
And I think you're right, that learning process.
That was a learning process, because they were like, they thought they were going to come down at one time and that's going to be the end of it. It don't happen like that.
Right. And that's a valuable and invaluable experience for them. It's not like reading it in a textbook or even watching it, on a television program, on a documentary. They've actually lived through that, and I think they're more likely then to remember those concepts. And as they get that process, and we kind of take the mystery out of that, I think our experience has been that they're right, and I think they're more likely then, as they move into adulthood, to continue to be active in the community instead of just waiting for someone else to do it for them. Yeah, you mentioned, with grandparents, don't want to be a grandparent still, 90 years old raising a 2-year-old. We also don't want our children growing up and they're 40 years old and we're still making all of their decisions for them because we've never taught them to do those things themselves.
That was well put.
Thank you. So, any final thoughts that you have about our community working together?
Hopefully that we can get businesses, workforce development, youth all on the same page at the same time.
Right.
Which is a major task.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
Well, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for coming out today. I really appreciate that. Okay. And I thank you all for watching Focal Point. My name is Carla Green, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.